So, dude, I never saw you on the circuit until a few years ago. Did you just start doing comedy, or did you do comedy your whole career?
I always wanted to do stand-up. I did it a couple times, like when I was younger, but it's hard, and it takes a lot of work and dedication, and I respect stand-up so much that I wanted to give it that time and that dedication. And so I got a TV show, was lucky enough to do that, and then
I'm gonna get into that.
we couldn't take a job when you know, because they sort of like have you. They're like, okay, you got to come back to which is so cool, and it's very rare. And so I was like, what can I do this summer? And I was sitting at the Improv with two comedy buddies, because I would always go to stand-up shows all the time, even though I was performing all the time. And I really loved it growing up. And then two of my buddies were like, you should just try to do it. And I had time off. This is probably about 10 years ago. And so I just started working my butt off. And then that summer, I did it every day. I would try to go up as many mics as I possibly could.
But you could do stand-up on your TV schedule.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So,
but you couldn't leave this because you had the sitcom.
Yeah, and with movies, you know, they could get pushed.
Yeah.
And so it's like I couldn't sign on to things because people knew that I had a hard out in early August where I had to go back to work. And so to get a movie in that time slot, I mean,
I know. It's a good problem, but a bad problem.
But stand-up, it allowed it for me to, you know, get in this game.
So before you got Two Broke Girls, is the show we're talking about, you didn't do stand-up.
I tried it a couple times.
Because that show came on 2012? 2011.
Yeah.
And then it ran for 6 seasons?
Yeah.
2017.
Yes.
And you were on from the beginning.
Day one.
And you were a regular.
Yeah. Okay. There were 5 of us that were the regulars, and then Jennifer Coolidge was added as a 6th, like midway through the first season. But it started off as just 5 of us.
Wow.
It was crazy.
And you played a character.
Yeah, so the part was originally written for a mid-50s, I think, Russian chef in the diner. It took place in a diner. And my friend was casting it, and she was like, come on in, you're not right for the part, because there was the other males in the show, was the Asian guy that owned it and a black guy who's like ran the cash register, and the only white guy was this guy, but he's got to be a 50-year-old Russian guy. So I went and I dressed up what I thought he would look like, just to sort of put myself in the vibe. And I did the accent, and I grew my hair out and my beard out and everything. And it was
essentially cool. You channeled your father.
Yeah, I said, Dad, will you come and do this? And then when you book the job, I'll come dressed like you.
So you go in not thinking you're going to get the job at all. Why was she having you come in for?
Because she wanted me to meet the producers
for like future
episodes, which is so nice.
Which is cool.
It was really nice, and it was a really cool opportunity. And I had never met Whitney and Michael Patrick King, Sex and the City, and so that was so fun. And they just were nice, and they were really funny. And
so you went in, you auditioned.
Yeah.
Whitney in the room, or was that not your first audition, or did you go deep in the first audition?
So the funniest thing was, I don't know how much your audience knows about it, but like, but a TV show, especially on a network, but now I guess some streaming, it takes forever.
Yeah.
You think that it's like, you know, you have to have multiple auditions, and every time you pass a level in the video game, there's like a new boss you have to beat. And it's like one that you don't have, you know, and so it
Donkey
has to be,
Kong.
Exactly. And you have to be the same, but better.
Yeah.
It's like,
so true.
It's weird.
You start with barrels, you feel good, then you hit the fireballs, and then everything goes faster. Yeah.
But the thing is, if you change it too much, they go, well, what was that? What did you do? Because they're guiding you. By the way, and Whitney and Michael, they were so instrumental and so helpful, and just being like, anything we had a question of, or like they changed lines and stuff, and they were very good about directing us, even in the auditions, before we met with like the network and the production company, whatever. And it's just a lot, and it was kind of a crazy process, because when I first went in there, I was going in for another job, and they were looking at all of these people in Hollywood. Like John Lovitz auditioned.
He would be perfect too.
Yeah. I've never heard him do a Russian accent. But
no. I mean, not saying you didn't. You did the job obviously great, but on the call sheet, what they were looking for, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the next round, we got. So I auditioned once. The casting director was like, "Can you do this?" I did it. She's like, "Great." She's like, "Read the script, come back." Then it was Whitney, Michael, and then I think the casting associate and the casting director, and they were very like it was so fun and just like a cool audition. And then I never heard anything. And I remember telling my manager at the time, I was like, that was just cool to meet them because hopefully, like, I read that pilot. I thought that was one of the funniest things I've ever read. I laughed out loud alone. Which you get pilot scripts all the time. There's such like a rough draft of what the show is going to be like. Like, go back and watch the pilot of Seinfeld.
You can't finish a pilot, let alone you're not laughing out loud.
No, it's just like get it to where it needs to be because it's a dialogue with an audience at home, and the pilot exists without a cast yet.
Yeah.
To fill the blood and flesh. So I get there, then like a month later, they're like, oh, you're going to producers, to whatever that's called, to studio, and it was at
next
Warner
big
Brothers.
step.
It was huge, and there was Peter Roth was there.
Peter, yep.
Dude, he's the nicest, and the room was just full. And Whitney, she's so great. She just comes up to me and she just whispers in my ear. She goes, "Don't ever talk in an English or an American accent." She's like, "Don't, just always be Russian, and just don't, just." And that was a level up. You know what I mean?
One of the things I want to keep listening to you, but one of the things I think why it was so successful for you and how you were blessed with this is because Whitney was there, because she's an artist.
Oh, she's so smart.
So she's championing you. Now, usually we have to deal with just suits.
Oh,
And Michael's amazing too. But, Whitney also does comedy. So it's like, does Michael do comedy? No, he doesn't.
He actually used to do a 2-person team.
Yeah, I
back in
think
New
he
York
was
in
an
the day.
actor and stuff. So you having creative people that are performers,
Yeah,
she's guiding you through. It's amazing.
and Whitney, we're almost the same age. Like, she's gone through that process herself.
Yeah, big time.
And she's providing what it felt like, maybe not even what she had been lacking, but I think maybe what worked for her. And she's like, oh, this will work for other performers. And then I remember they changed it. She said, do this. So I went in the room and I did the accent or whatever. And it was awesome. Like, everybody in there was so nice. And because you hear about rumors that you go into these rooms and people just sort of like stone face towards you. And
I've had that.
Yeah.
You've had that.
Yeah. And but this was like my first major pilot audition, and I didn't experience that, so I thought, oh well, I won't get it because I met the other guys that were there, and there were these much older guys, amazing actors. Like, one guy was on 24 forever, the other guy was in the Mission Impossible movie, and they were great, and we became very friendly, and it was not competitive because we looked at each other and we were like, well, it's if you get it, it's not because of me. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't in competition. It's just we were 3 very different types.
Yeah.
And so.
Okay. So these are the guys you're going against.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I could. Okay, that's
a bulldog who was the size of a bobblehead doll, who was just like this real sort of Vinnie Jones, like this British guy,
completely different.
Shaved head.
So that makes you
yoked.
feel better because it's just one of 3 different ways.
And then the other guy was this guy, Yuri, awesome dude, wound up doing a guest spot on the show playing my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger dude, bigger than me. He's probably like 6'5" maybe. And not doughy, like a big guy, but just sort of like a guy in a Russian guy in a tracksuit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially Jamie Kennedy auditioned for the part is what I'm trying to get at.
It's facts.
And then and so we were very chill, and then I was like, a month sort of went by, and I was like, and it was at the end.
Damn, that's a long time for a pilot season.
It was
a month.
Well, Whitney was also working on Whitney at the same time.
Yeah, but it's like audition, and then at 3:00, at 5:00, you're going to test her.
So then I got called in to do it for the CBS, but the problem was Les Moonves, who ran CBS at the time, he wasn't there.
You're going to network.
Yeah, and that was crazy because you're in this tiny little room, like somebody's home theater, but it's at CBS.
It's insane.
And it's all suits.
It's insane.
And I went up first. Ooh. And so there's only 2 people for each part.
Now hold on. When you go up first for network, which is crazy because Les is running Viacom, he's running a $100 billion conglomerate, and they all do it. He literally sits in the final auditions for every actor.
But he wasn't there for this one.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy that they do it, but it's also crazy that he wasn't there. So you do this, and going first, what is the thing you've heard about going first in the network? And I'll tell you what I've heard. I'll see if we're on the same page.
So I like to go first because I think that there's a little bit more forgiveness. Like, if you're on a roll, like let's say you go third, it's not like stand-up, right? I feel like because you get to set your own pace. Like, if you're great, this is just my own personal opinion, you are great as an island where they have nothing to compare you to personally. Whereas like sometimes if they're, because they don't need to choose people from these groups. They could like say none of them worked and then they could bring back all new people.
Yeah.
But at least you got your shot to be great I think in as unaffected a way as possible. That's my personal opinion.
So, but what have you heard about networks and producers when the order in which people go? Have you ever heard anything about that?
I think people like to go last because I've heard because you're the last thing in their minds.
I always heard that if you go first, that's what I'm trying to say is that's usually not the choice. So the fact that you went first and got it is huge because I think 1 out of 2, we really like this guy, but here's our our pick.
Oh, totally. And if you do, but I think if you're so good,
that's incredible. That's what I'm saying. You went to network first and got it.
I remember, and they didn't tell us till we got there. And of course, we're all like nervous little, cockroaches. We're just sort of like going over our lines and stuff because you're thinking, not even if you're thinking about it, but your mind is like, well, this is level up. This is the last level. So like, what can I do? And me thinking how well the last one went. That was the thing that I was sort of like competing with in my mind because I was so lucky that every time I auditioned, it did get better.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, not even it was Whitney's note or it was the first time I met Whitney and Michael, we had so much fun banter that I feel like, and Michael told me later, he's like, I didn't even care about your audition. He's like, I could just tell talking to you. He's like, you said a joke. And he goes, that was in my mind, you were the part. So so things had gone well for all these other reasons. So I go to the test, right? And everybody's in suits. It's like the most powerful people. It's like everyone's that, Wizard of Oz. So you can't really see them, but you feel their presence in that room, And it's not packed. There's only like 8 people in that room. And then Michael and Whitney and then the casting director.
You're at Radford.
Yes. And then we go there and I remember I got like middling laughs. But I remember thinking I didn't push. And I remember thinking like that was enough. If I didn't get it, I could walk away and I had no regrets, which I think is very, like, that's not a usual thing for me because I'm like, I should have done like this. But that day I was just like, and then I remember like it was such a release and a relief like off my shoulders and everybody else had to go because every time you leave, they deliberate now. So everyone's like talking and then 10 minutes later they call in the next guy or the next girl or whatever. And that was pretty crazy. To wait, like, because it was like 2 hours, and I had gone first.
So you had to wait 2 hours there?
Yeah, you were just sort of waiting for everyone to go through.
And so you did that. Then what happened at the end?
And then at the end, I found out that they cast everybody but my part.
Oh, and it's a Friday?
Bro.
Oh, you definitely, did you find out before the weekend? No way.
No. So, crazy story. So there was a guy who always believed in me when I first moved to LA.
Wow.
And I thought he had died because I hadn't heard from him. He was actually really sick, and I texted him a bunch, and he had never, and out of the blue, he hit me up. And he was like, hey, man, do you want to go grab lunch? And this guy, John, incredible dude, just like a really positive influence in my life when I moved to LA. And we go to get lunch, and he's like, what's going on in your life right now? Have you, like, what are you doing? And I go, oh, I tested for the show. And I'd gotten a phone call earlier that day that Les Moonves is going to do one of 2 things today. He's either going to give you the thumbs up after watching your tape, the tape of my test, or they were going to scrap me and then just start all over again and try to, because they didn't, for whatever reason, and I'm sure, it had nothing to do with them, but they were like the other 2 guys, they just didn't fit the part is what Les or somebody had said. So it was either me or they were going to start over. And they said, if your agent calls, you didn't get it. But if casting calls you, you got it. So just have your phone on you.
If your agent calls who?
Me.
To be like, get it.
You didn't get it, bud.
If casting calls
me,
they would call you?
Yeah, because I knew the casting director. We'd become very friendly over the years. So I'm literally sitting at lunch and I'm waiting and I'm like catching up with this guy.
This is an angel.
It was insane. And so it was like the middle of the day. I'm eating lunch at this like dive bar in the valley with my buddy that we'd gone to and gotten hammered at like 100 times. But like this was years ago, and we're eating and it's like, people are playing pool. It's kind of a weird like Moe's Tavern kind of energy.
Bar?
It's Springbok.
I don't know what that is.
It's awesome. It's a South African rugby bar in Van Nuys. It's awesome. It's a fucking great bar.
Springbok is a fucking type of meat.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, and they live in South Africa.
Yeah.
And so I get a call. It's my agent. And I go, oh, damn. So I go, hey, John, I got to take this. I'm really sorry, buddy. I go outside and he goes, hey, man, it's Chip. He was my agent at the time. And I go, what's up, dude? And then Julie, who's a cast director, was like, I'm on here too. And I was like, and I remember like my life, like the world stopped. I will never forget this. And I just like looked up to the heavens and I was just like, exhale. And then she's like, you got it. You're in the show. And I will never forget that feeling. Like that was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Oh, it had to be.
It was unreal because it had been not dragged out, but because I got the show when I was like 31. And so it was like, I hadn't really been through that process before. Cause for commercials or like the television that I'd done or movies that I'd done before, they were on a schedule, but pilots, there's like, it's kind of a weird way to put up all that money for something that may or may not work, because we weren't even picked up then. This was just to shoot the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
But it was exciting because like Whitney was such like, having like this unbelievable, it was like the beginning of her, incredible career to the public. And then like Michael was crushing it coming off of the comeback or whatever, Lisa Kudrow. And so that was just, I remember like hanging up the phone and I called my mom and I was just like, I got the pilot.
It's a beautiful feeling, right?
Oh, dude, it was.
What's crazy is that all of that and that easily could have just went to just a test pilot, which is a minier version of a pilot. Then, or it could just be a pilot, and then the pilot could then be reshot.
Bro, you could be replaced.
You could be replaced, or then you go to series and they pick up 10, and then you don't get again, or they air 5 and you're done. I mean, the fact that there's 23 steps after that. So the fact that you had to do all that, it was an incredible feeling, and your payoff was incredible. But the fact that you had all of that and that just to get the pilot, because you didn't know it was going to go past